Representative Monks, you are back. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me back.
This is a big day for you. You are going to a governor signing in like 45 minutes for your tax relief bill that just passed out of the Senate. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you much. A lot of us worked on that. We're real happy. And frankly, really, the people are the one who gets the benefit from it because they're going to see the tax relief.
That's fantastic. I was speaking with Lieutenant Governor Betke about a month ago, and he was saying, hey, look, Idaho is one of the least, we're leading the country in lowering regulations, and that is attracting a lot of people to our state, a lot of industry to our state. That's one of the great things. And obviously that was one of the, well, I was going down a rabbit hole with, you ever read that book, Atlas Shrugged? Yes. Like that was one of the big things about the state Colorado in that book, obviously fictitious. But the point is, this is actually one of those things where as we lower the tax burden, we do attract more people to our state. That's the thinking behind this, right?
Of course. And it's not just about, lowering taxes, because when we lower taxes, we actually get more money as a state in the long run. Maybe not the first year, but eventually we end up getting more revenue. Okay,
explain this to me, because I'm all about, you tell me, you give me $1, I get $2 back. I'm all about that. I love that. Explain this to me.
What are you going to do with those $2?
Well, if you give me $1, what am I going to do with it? I don't know. Yeah. I'll go to, I was going to say In-N-Out, but nobody wants to hear that.
That's fine, wherever. But you're going to pay.
I'll go to Dawson Taylor Coffee.
And you're gonna spend, and you're gonna pay some income tax on that,
right.
Or sales tax. Sorry,
Great.
You're gonna spend sales tax.
And Dawson gets my $1.
And what's Dawson gonna do? They're gonna pay their employees. They're gonna pay income tax on that. They're gonna reinvest it back into the economy. There's the market is not static. It's not like we just take this money, and it sits idle somewhere. When we give it back and not take it from the people in the first place, they do something with the money. They invest it. They spend it. No matter what they do, they're going to reinvest it back into the economy. The more money we give back to the people to invest in the economy, the better. The government's the worst spender of money, right? We're the least efficient. We waste it more than anybody else. I would much rather see the money back in businesses' pockets, in individuals' pockets. Let them invest back in the economy. We're going to get it back. If you want to look at it from a, plus minus type of thing, the state's going to get the money back one way or another through an income tax or a sales tax, or maybe they use it for their property tax. Either way. But so when we say it's this sales tax or income tax cut, right? That's what we just did, a big income tax cut. That's House Bill 40. Speaker Moyle, myself, and a few others, we worked on this. We put this thing forward. It's going to be $260 million back to Idahoans. And they're going to spend it. They're going to invest it in their businesses. They're going to invest it in their employees. They're going to spend it at the store. Either way, it comes back to the state one way or the other. So it doesn't cost the state $250 million. We're going to get a lot of that back.
And to make a point that a lot of people have before me, it's not saying it cost the state anything, because it wasn't the state's money. That was money that was collected by the state, and they're just saying, okay, let's not collect.
We're just not going to collect as much now. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But it's not like you produced a bunch of widgets and you made a revenue off of those widgets, and then you're giving away that profit somewhere. It's like, no. Yeah. Some other company or some other individual generated that revenue and gave you a portion of it, and then you're just giving a portion of that back.
Yeah, we don't generate anything. We don't make anything. Yeah. We just spend it. We just take the money and we spend it very inefficiently compared to the private sector.
Man, you know what? I was speaking with Secretary of State McGrain the other day about his campaign finance transparency that they're trying to push through, which I thought was fantastic. We had this long conversation about it. But talk about not producing anything. The political action groups and the think tanks and stuff that come into the state, or just sit from outside the state and send in millions of dollars of mailers and trash campaign attacks and everything. Yeah. They don't produce anything. And I've never understood that business model. I'm like, how is it that they're like, people say, hey, it's a cheap place for them to do business. I'm like, what business are they in? I don't understand. And I finally, in the last several weeks realized, I'm like, okay, the business model is you just sit in like Texas, and you're just like, okay, we need to get funding from that billionaire. The only reason that billionaire is going to give us money is if we produce something. Now, what we're producing is political action, political efficacy, political capacity. And so what we need to do is show them that we're real serious. We can get this. Just give us some money and I will make things happen. Well, if you have to pick amongst the 50 states to make things happen, you're sitting in Texas, you're like, well, Florida is going to cost us $12 million to run a bill and get it passed. but Idaho's only $500,000. So like, if I'm just looking for a gross number of efficacy or of effective policies or things that I got pushed, let's go to Idaho and just run a bunch of stuff. Yep. It's going to cost us 1/24 of what it would cost us in Florida. That's the business model. And then we go to the billionaire and we're like, see, I got these 10 things done. Give me some more money. Like, and then they just come in and poo-poo all over this state, man.
You know, and it's not just out of state. It's in state too. That's the business model. The business model is fear. We have to have an issue. If we don't have an issue, we can't convince people to donate to our cause, right? So that's what it is. It's all cause driven. They make up issues sometimes that don't exist because we got to get somebody to donate money to us.
Wait. What's an issue that people have made up?
Let's look at our Second Amendment.
Okay.
Let's look at our gun rights.
Okay.
There is nobody that can argue that Idaho is not a gun-friendly state.
Sure.
In fact, if you look at all the, the magazines and they rank the states as far as the most gun-friendly states in the country, Idaho will always be at the top. Maybe 2, depending on if you want to rank something else. Who
knocks us out occasionally? Is it like Texas or something?
No, not necessarily. In fact, one of the reasons that Idaho was not number 1 for a lot of years was because we did not have a state-sponsored gun range. We got lots of gun ranges, right? But we didn't have a state one. So we took the Pittman-Roberts money, which is a tax that the federal collects on stuff, and we use that actually, so we have one, and so that gave us a check mark, and now we are
back to number 1, baby.
We're at the top of that thing, and so but there's organizations out there where still they depend on having an issue. And so you got to
they run mailers against Speaker Moyle. They're like, he's anti-2A. Meanwhile,
you got to have an issue.
Mike like grabs his AR-15 out of the back of his like, I'm anti. How do you mean? Like this? Would you like to see my other one? It's over.
Okay. So occasionally I'll jump in the truck with Mike and we'll, and I should say Speaker Moyle.
Yeah. I'm terrible with that.
Casual. No, it's fine. Mike and I have gone back long before he was even in politics. And if you know how long Mike's been in politics, you'll know that I've
since 1998, right?
Yeah.
A long time.
I'd met him, one of the first guys I met when I was here in this valley and such. So anyway, but I jump into his car. I can't even get into the truck. He's got a gun right there on the side and I have to step over it just to be able to climb and
magazines
sit in the seat.
On your seat. You're like, Mike, get this.
There's ammunition all over the place. And I'm like, geez, Mike. And he goes, I know Janet's always complaining. She can't even get in the truck with me. So when somebody says that Mike is anti-guns, you're just like, that's not even reality. This
is the business model though, right? Like make a crisis, make an accusation, get people to back you. Yeah. They're like, we got to fix this thing because Mike Moyle is going to get rid of all of our guns.
The Speaker of the House of Idaho.
Oh my God!
He's out
Meanwhile,
there trying to take it away.
Ammunition's falling out of the truck as he opens the door.
He just anyway. That's what we're dealing with, and it's unfortunate that we deal with that now. But it's the business model and it works. And for some reason, negative campaigning works. It's been working that way for a lot of years. And so that's the model. You got to find crap to say about your opponent. You can't just speak what you're going to do, what you plan on accomplishing. You've got to actually tear the person down. And that's what you see, that identity politics that kind of sucks right now. But
it does suck. It does. But here's the thing, even in spite of that, Idaho is producing good results as far as a state goes. Can I ask you this? Like I counted the other day, like 10 different reasons people run bills. Okay. Like it's like I didn't know that there was such a thing called a personal bill.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Where it's like, there's no chance that this bill will ever see a committee or the light of day, but you run it as a articulation of value sets. You run it as like telling your constituents you're doing something. You run it for like all kinds of reasons, but like that's a bill that you literally write up and it never even has a remote possibility of becoming law. And it's like, there are all of these things. And it seems that now viewing the legislative session the way I'm like, okay, so this is like a hot train wreck of like, you're running this thing for this reason. And you're like, why? Do you think it would be better off if more people understood that? It was like, hey, everybody calm down. Like because we actually are doing a good, when you see the things that get across the line that, the governor signs in, by and large, I'm like, okay, I see where people were coming from. This is not as like, for instance, the Medicaid expansion reform, right? Sure. We had the original repeal, then we had the 11 provisions or repeal clause. Now we got down to something that it's my understanding from a hospital standpoint, they're like, well, actually, this is kind of like better for us from a revenue standpoint, at least in the near term. This is not bad. So it's like, okay, we worked through all this stuff. Everybody was so upset. And I'm not saying they shouldn't have been, but now we came down to this expansion where it's like, we're going to add like a work requirement and like you can volunteer, you can be going to school, you can do all, and like we have this other thing, but like In general, it's not going to be that bad.
That's how we have to get things done sometimes. You have to actually put something out there and it says, hey, we're serious about this issue. And sometimes you put a bill out, you just want to find out what's the problems with it. Right?
Oh, because you send it out just to get beat up.
Well, yeah, you don't know. I mean, you can't talk to everybody in the state. You know, you can talk to some lobbyists, you can talk to some stakeholders. I can talk to a representative from the counties, and I can do all that stuff. But until I put that bill out, I might find out that in another county, the assessor or the treasurer is going, hey, this is a problem for us, and I'll tell you why. And you're like, oh, okay, I guess that was a problem. So we go back and we redo it. So that's another reason we stick out a bill. You got to find out where the flaws are, right? So sometimes we just throw them out there and we like to see, but I always tell everybody there's 105 of us there. And out of 105 people, I don't care where you go to your church, you go to your business, you're going to find 105 people that are going to have the same ideas. No. And some of them are going to be kind of crazy ideas. Some of them are going to be crazy ideas, and we're legislators, so we're going to have some crazy ideas. And I always say, just like you said, judge us by what we get done.
Right.
Right. I don't want to hear the complaints. I hear it all the time. You're driving home and on the radio, and they picked up some obscure bill that I'm like, I don't even know about. And I'm in the legislature and because somebody introduced a bill somewhere, and you're, well, what are we doing with that? Nothing. It's going nowhere. But, they pick it up because it's a big hot topic. Oh, we're going to, make, Bible be read in classes or something, and, can't talk about it. Whatever it happens to be. Right.
Right.
And I'm like, it's not going to get anywhere. Let's focus on those bills that we're going to get done. Like tax cuts that we're getting this year,
right?
Over $450 million in tax cut, largest tax cut you'll ever see in the state. That's what we're going to get done this year.
And that's what is getting done.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Like to your point, I actually had Representative Redmond and we chatted about his, reading the Bible in school. And I was like, this is an interesting thing to be going after. And, I don't pretend to understand why people are doing things. Just watching it all go through. It's like, okay, like I've had a bunch of people send me articles with bills that I would consider pretty inflammatory or like outright like, wow, that's kind of like a shot across the bow. And then I talk to people in the know and they're like, that's not going to go. Don't worry. It's never even going to make it into they're not even going to take it in the committee. I'm like, whoa, like how is that a thing? Right.
But sometimes you need to do that though. Right.
Right.
Redmond is highlighting the fact that we as
and by the way, the inflammatory, like that was a different, I'm not saying he was inflammatory at all.
Agreed. No, Jordan's awesome. Love the guy.
He's great. I've had him in several times. I've enjoyed every conversation with him.
Smart guy, knows what he's doing, and he knows how to get things done in the legislature. By the way, he does a really good job with that. But sometimes we put issues out there because we want to highlight something.
Yeah.
And we want to highlight the fact that something needs to be changed. I ran a bill a number of years ago, and it was one of those bills that it wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
But it literally removed all property tax and put it all on the backs of sales tax.
We talked about this as like
12 cents. 12 cents though. That's what it's got to pay, right? Yeah. Again, I call it a thought grenade.
Yeah.
You throw it out there, it kind of explodes, it goes all over the place, and, stirs up a little dust, and people want to know, is that serious? Are we possible? Maybe, but we do it all the time. We just did some today in Rev and Tax this morning, a potential constitutional amendment. And the presenter of it even said, hey, this isn't going anywhere this year. I just want to get this idea out there so we can start talking about it, because it was a constitutional amendment to allow local option tax. That's a big deal in the legislature, right? People sit on both sides of that.
Right.
Some people we really want to return it to the locals, let them do it. And then you got other people who's like me, who says that all that is a way of increasing taxes. Right. But there's some legitimate reasons why you would be supportive of that, even though I'm not necessarily. And so this, again, it was that thought exercise. I had somebody texting me in the middle of the debate. Are we really going to do this? I'm like, no, this is just to get an idea out there right now. Now, maybe next year, after we kind of let this sit and percolate, maybe we'll find a good path forward on that. And maybe we will, but you got to throw the idea out there sometimes.
And this, one of the other things is you can't, there's such a wide variety of ideas and positions on things. There's no way you would be able to find representatives of each individual group of ideas, for or against, for this reason, against for this reason, whatever it might be, putting it out there and then trusting that the populace is at least attempting to pay attention and then will give you feedback is another mechanism of like, okay, bring me the worst reasons the best reasons this is a bad idea. Like bring me the for and then the against. And then once those people self-identify with their feedback, then you're like, okay, there's actually a lot of people that don't like it for this reason. I either knew that or I didn't know that, but like, okay, this is it. Or nobody really came forward. Like we thought we were going to hear from this group. They didn't make a peep, right? which is another argument for civic participation. Because like you're putting bills out, at least to some degree at times, to get feedback and understand, would this be good for Idaho or would it not be good for Idaho? Why doesn't Idaho tell me? Right? Like you're relying on people to participate in this.
So I obviously, I was integral with House Bill 93 with the school choice bill, right? Got a lot of feedback on that, right? Your unions and teachers, they're pretty much against it. There were
pretty universally,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, there was some supporting of it, sure. but for the most part, you're right. And I got a lot of emails on that, and I thought, man, this is a lot of emails. Dwarfed. I've got an issue that's dwarfed that. Not even close to the number of emails. Taxing vape products.
And
in less than a week, I've gotten close to 2,000 emails on that issue alone.
I don't believe there are that many people in the state of Idaho that care that. Can you verify the location of these people? Did you get an email from yourself?
No, not on these ones. Not on these ones. Although we did find that on the one issue there, and
how do we even trust the email? We need like a verified email submission system where it's like it's like
E-Verify. That what that be?
No, I don't. Listen, I don't know about that. We don't want to. That's a rabbit hole. But this is the problem. Like, how do we trust the feedback at this point? Were they okay? First off, 2,000. Were they like form emails or were they
most of them were the same? They're form ones. But the same thing with House Bill 93. A lot of those were the same ones. And so a lot of those issues, you'll get people, whether it's grocery credit, tax credit, whether it's school choice, whether it's vape. An organization out there, whether you're for or against it, they will try to get in front of whoever they can and say, hey, do you support this or you don't support this? If so, send this email off. And they'll send them to their database, Constitutional Convention. That's another big one too, by the way. We're getting a ton of those emails on that. And you'll have people both sides and they'll send you the same thing back. For the most part, I'm looking where are they from? Are they from my district? If they're from my district, I try to respond.
Sure.
Don't always get there.
2,000 emails is a lot.
Well, just to try to delete them all, I'm like,
I have something like 30,000 unread emails. I don't even open them. But then again, I'm not an elected representative. Like you have the burden of actually being a responsible person. I'm just a dude.
I know I got this one back from somebody and I felt really bad because they're in my district and they sent it to me and it had been about a week. So since they sent the previous email and they kind of said, what, you're not even gonna respond to me? And this was in the midst of this, I think from Friday to Sunday on that vape thing, I got like 700 emails just in those 2 days. And it was in the middle of that. Right. So I didn't even know it existed. I'm still trying to delete off the old ones because I can't just hit delete all because I gotta find out what's there. I still have real emails from LSO that's got a bill draft that I got to find in the middle of that whole thing. And we're trying to do that anyway. But I finally was able to respond back to him like, dude, I'm sorry. I'm getting to you as I can. And they were very good about it. They're really apologetic. Like, oh, I didn't realize that you guys get that much. And we don't have staff, right? We're doing this on our own here. We're not out there with staff that you've got all these states that have tremendous staff for us. So we're doing it out on your own. I mean, you can hire some people and you can do some stuff, but I like to write my own. I like to respond. Right. And sometimes it's tough, but again, I don't know. I can't tell you if they were all real or not. I'm just telling you the number of emails I got. It's a lot.
It's a lot. The vaping thing, man. I had a representative try to put me in contact with like a vaping owner because they're in a big hot wrangle with like the ATF or something and the Supreme Court. I'm like, listen, I try to be really open-minded to all topics, but like, there are some things I'm like, I'm not really that interested in even chatting. Like I got to have some interest in it and be curious about it. I'm like, I'm not really curious about this one, right? Like I'm not curious about this thing. And then of course this, owner gets a hold of me directly. I'm like, I'm not like nothing against like you do you. This is just not like, this is not my thing where I tell everybody about how poorly the vaping industry or this particular company is being treated by. It's like maybe and I'm wrong for doing that, but like I just don't. That's not my jam.
But you know what? That is a highlight of exactly what happens in the legislature.
Sure, you have people with their
priorities.
Issues.
So Lieutenant Governor, right? And I worked with Scott in the legislature when he was a speaker there for 10 years, and I was able to serve with him in leadership there for part of that as well. And Scott's priority, one of his priorities, I don't want to put words in his mouth, has been water. right? And it's a great priority for the state of Idaho. It's super important. And so, but that was always his priority. I mean, he's
passionate, cared a lot about it. Yes.
And good, rightfully so. We have to have somebody who's doing that, right? Speaker Moyle comes along. It's not his number one priority. Not that he doesn't believe that water is important, but that's not his number one priority. So he focuses on his priority, taxes, right? So that's what he's focused on. You know, you put me in there, I'll have a different priority.
What would you do? What would you say? Speaker of the House. What would you do? Come on. Represent Speaker Monks. What does future Speaker Monks care about?
I think one of the things that I would like to see the most, again, taxes is probably my biggest thing, but specifically is property taxes. And the way that I would get rid of, or at least reduce it significantly, is on the school property tax side. Again, remember that makes up 30%, in some places 50% of a property tax budget. The state needs to build all the high schools and middle schools and the elementary schools, instead of putting that on the backs of the locals. Because some local districts they just can't do them. One, they can't afford them because they got no base, population base, or they don't have the property value base to be able to do that. And our Constitution says that we're supposed to have a fair, uniform, and thorough education. So if you're saying fair and uniform, I can look within West Ada School District, and I can show you a high school or a middle school and compare it to another middle school, or an elementary and compare it to another elementary. And I said, do these look very fair and uniform? You'd probably say no. Now that's just within one school district. Right. Compare that across the state. We probably could do better. I'd love for the state to be able to build all those schools. And with that, you remove that property tax burden. Again, I want to get rid of property taxes. I hate property taxes. You can never own your property because of that. And so if we're going to do that, I want to be able to do it by transitioning that responsibility away from the locals. Therefore, it gets off our property tax. The state can go ahead and build those schools. In fact, that's why we started House Bill 292 a number of years ago. That was the property tax relief bill that we've done. House Bill 521, again, also put a bunch of money into property tax relief. I have made no secret that I want the state to be responsible for building all these schools for two reasons. One, I think it provides a more uniform system across the state, but number two, because it lowers property tax. Both of those things. I don't know if you put them in order, but that would be one of my priorities, right? I can still do that.
Wild.
I can still do it, and I'm still working on that now. I don't have to be speaker to be able to do that. But you ask what's my priorities. That would be one of them. Again, does it make it the right priority or the best priority? No.
But it's just
a priority. It's just a priority. And every legislator walks in the door, you got a priority. And sometimes you got a constituent that got a raw deal somewhere, and you're trying to fix something for them. And it's as simple as that.
And look, that makes sense. And obviously you get elected because your priority, your passion aligns with enough people in your district. I mean, like if I was passionate about providing free shoes to people, like, I don't know, like there could be enough people that were like, yeah, damn, we need those shoes. Or
my wife would be all over that. She'd be like, hey, somebody buying my shoes. Maybe
not fancy shoes. We're doing government shoe.
Well, my wife is as frugal as there is out there.
There you go.
I love her for that.
There you go. So, but like, if that's my priority and everybody's like, okay, look, bro, we have like other like this guy wants to help build high schools and you're all about shoes. I'm God bless you for your shoes, but like, this is not, you're not going to help us.
Sure.
In general, we have enough people with shoes, like, yeah, maybe in the cracks and the fringe, but like, we need high schools. Can I ask you something about,
Can I answer no?
You can answer no.
Okay.
You can answer no. And you can say, cut this whole part. What I want to know is, like, again, my position on education is I'm pro-education. And again, in my former life, I was a private educator.
That's
the week I graduated college, I started a tutoring company, and that's all I did with my entire professional life until the week I moved here. I have a one-line resume. It's literally SAT tutor. Like, that's it. Nice. I don't even have a reference because I didn't work for anyone. It was just me. Like, I don't even know how to make a resume. Anyway, what I am not against private education. What I always appreciated, though, is that I was able to quantify my value, and that drove attendance to my classroom. Because people were like, dude, my friend went up like 200 points. And then enough people heard like, oh, I went up 150. And there were so few people that didn't go up on the first round. And if they didn't go up, I made right by them and I protected my clients. I'm like, come back in. Something happened, come back in, no charge. So I would protect them and then they would go up. So again, I had a great system. Okay. Do you think there's ever a place where we look at the new school choice and say, all right, look, to protect our Idaho citizens, our Idaho taxpayers, like Matt, okay, we take money from Matt under threat of imprisonment, and we take a portion of that money and under threat of imprisonment for education, and to protect Matt, as a taxpayer and help him understand we actually are like ITD, I can see the roads getting built, right? Like ISP, I see the trooper, right? Like whatever the taxes are, it's like I see efficacy. We even have numbers, how long are wait times for EMS services, how many people died in, fires or response, whatever. We have all of these metrics for all of these government programs. Do you ever think there's a way where we could find like, hey, listen, if you're a private school, select whoever you want to select, kick out whoever you want to kick out. We're not making you have due process for kids. We're not making you have fingerprint background checks for teachers. You don't need degrees for teachers. We don't care about any of that. You do your system however you want, but you just got to make them take this 30-minute test at the beginning and 30-minute test at the end of the year, just so we can protect our Idaho taxpayers and say, we can show you data that the money we're taking you under threat of imprisonment is in fact going to an education system that has a certain degree of efficacy. Do you think there's ever a way to get there?
The problem,
this is where you can say no.
Sure, no, this is a great question. It's a super fair question.
Because I just want me to be protected, and I want you to be protected, and I want everyone to be protected in the same way we expect protection for every other tax dollar that comes out.
So here's the problem. And again, not saying it can't happen.
Sure.
But I'm just saying here's reality.
Yeah.
When we go to public school and we say, we want you to take these tests.
Yeah.
We want the kids to take these tests. What do we hear from the public schools? Tests do not measure a kid's learning. And if we do, all we do is teach to the test. So when we've done that as a state, we've tried to tie funding to test results.
Don't we have like English proficiency and math proficiency tests?
They're terrible results.
Okay, but even if they were terrible, can we just compare them? Can we give everybody the same terrible test?
Sure. No, I agree. Yeah. And many of your private schools do. In fact, the vast majority of them do.
Can we just get those results? Can we mail them to us? Mail them to the state so we can see them.
No, I'm not opposed to that. But the problem is when we are told by our public schools the testing is not the way of determine efficiency.
How do they determine efficacy then? Like
that's the problem, isn't it?
No, I don't think it is. Don't we know the NAEP results? Don't we know like SAT results? Don't we have go on rates? Don't we have
so we've done those, right?
Sure.
And we've even tied their to performance that will give you more money the better your test results do. And of course the teachers and the schools, rightfully so, will say, wait a minute, you got to look where we started, right? And so you have to do it an increase, right?
Yeah. That's why at the beginning, at the end.
And so then if your money is tied to that test result, what do you teach? That test. And that's all they teach. At least that's the concern.
I totally I understand that 100%.
If our public schools would come and say, this is the test we want, this is how we want all of us to be judged, and this is where we want to invest the money because this is the best way of doing it. If they agree to something like that, and not that they don't agree to it, but they think that that's the best way of measuring it, then that's a great thing for us to start looking down the roads and on comparing. But as a legislative body, in conjunction with a lot of educators, we've been trying to get that out of the codes, the testing. I will say this though, if you got a kid and their plan is to go to college,
sure,
right? You want them to get into college. I'm going to be taking them to you. I want you to help them with their SAT scores so they can get some better scholarships with it, right? And I know the end goal on that, and that's the goal, and so we can pretty easy to measure that. What if I got a kid though who doesn't want to go to college? He's never going to go to college, right? And they just need some basic skills though,
right?
Who's the best judge on whether or not that's a good education for that kid?
Oh yeah,
it literally always goes back to the parents. And if you as a parent have an option to send your kid to A, B, C, or D, because my plan is A, B, C, or D. I want him to be an Elon Musk, and I want him to actually, go do these science degrees, and then I want him to have some business degrees. That's where I'm going to focus it. I got a kid that's never going to go to any of those things, and I just want him to have a good time there because he's really going to he's going to be working, in construction and, backhoe operator, which is a great job, by the way. There's really good jobs right now. I think this school is a better place for him. I've got one that wants to be a doctor, so I'm going to go to that medical arts charter school in Meridian. That's all we're doing is providing options for them. And you know what the best thing about this whole House bill that we passed on that? As soon as that passed, I heard from public schools actually out there saying, maybe these micropods we might be onto something to that. And so they're looking at doing micropods in their school district. I'm like, this is all we were wanting. We were wanting people to think outside the box. What's a different way of doing it? Is there a better way of doing it? And when you provide options for people, you get the best results. And so
I totally get
I'm just like,
really
it just made me smile so much when I thought of that. But it always goes back to, in my opinion, there's nobody who's a better judge of whether that's a good education for their kid than a parent on it.
Right.
Because nobody cares more about their education than the parent. And if you want it to be a little bit more of a liberal arts type of experience, you can go here. If you want more of a science-based one here, you can do that. If you want to have a religious flavor in it, at a Christian, Catholic, private school, whatever, you can do that. And I think that's all okay. We just want those options for everybody.
And listen, I've talked to so many people.
I know, and I didn't want to bring that up for you because I know you've talked to that so much.
The only reason I'm saying that is because I get it, and I understand when people talk about these things. I'm just coming at this from like, okay, this is something. And again, as a private educator who understands, like, I thought I did a damn good job. I was like, compared to the, other people. Like,
did you take the SAT? Can I put you on the spot?
Yeah.
I did. So what, like, do you know your score?
I got perfect on part of it.
No way. Really?
No studying.
You're one of those guys?
Zero studying. I literally walked in December of my senior year and took it once. I paid for it with my paper route money. Yeah, I needed the SAT.
See, but that's awesome. That is impressive.
Thank you.
I wasn't nearly that good.
When I was growing up, my parents had split up. I was the fourth of 4 kids at the time. Now I'm one of 11 actually, because there are a lot of other kids that came along. But like nobody, I was like a feral child. Like nobody was paying attention to like what Matt was doing. So I literally applied for colleges and paid for the SAT with like my paper route money. Nobody was checking my applications, the essays, the whole thing.
Did you study at all?
No. Like
you're just that smart.
I got real lucky.
You can't get lucky on an SAT.
Listen, man,
you could say that about the ACT that I got lucky and I filled in a few bubbles and got really lucky. But the SAT, you can't just get lucky on that.
You know what? I will say,
was it the math? I mean, the English portion? I mean,
well, I can tell you right now, I could take it pretty much blindfolded and slay the entire thing. Just because like after like so much of what actually happens is not whether or not you know the content. Like I would work with kids. I'm like, listen, if you miss 10 questions, guaranteed 6 of them are dumb mistakes. And they're like, that's not true. Sure enough, man. It's like they're like, okay, I know all of these except 3. I missed 10. I'm like, right. What it ultimately comes down, like my education and my career has come down to a force of will. That's it. Okay. I am not a super bright person. I'm not even bright at all, but I have strength of will that rivals pretty much anyone. Like I don't know anything about audio video engineering. I don't know anything about lighting. Like, but we're sitting in here, right?
Figured it out.
Right. That was my thing. That was my capacity. Like, I don't know, but I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna figure this out. Anyway, but the point is with education, here's one thing that and again, I know you got to go. I understand everything you're saying. Do you worry that I've heard people say, one argument for school choice is like, hey, I'm this taxpayer and this money should go somewhere that benefits me. And I understand that sentiment 100%, sure. Like understand it. And I am not the right person to say whether that's right or wrong. What I do get worried about though, is using that principle, using that plank of thought. It's like, okay, well, what about people that either never have kids, are never going to have kids, or have already had their children and are past that child rearing age? Because if they apply the whole, like, my tax dollars should go to my benefit, we start really running the risk of like, okay, so the only people paying for school are people with kids between the age of 5 and 18.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, remember all of those people, somebody else paid for them when they were younger.
Sure.
Right. And so I always find that a little bit disingenuous when they say it was okay when somebody else paid for it for me, but all of a sudden now I don't want to pay for anybody else. But
even that principle, then you apply it to the private school parents who may have gone to public school. It's like, wait, somebody paid for your public school, and now, you know,
and the people in the private school right now, they're out there saying, I've been paying for everybody else's this whole time, right. And you know, I'm just hoping to get a little bit of it back right now. But let's look at it a little differently too.
Sure.
What about somebody who lives downtown Boise here? They don't have a car, and they you know, they got a bike. They work real close by. They're paying for the roads.
Right.
I never get on that road, drive from here to McCall. Why should I have to pay for that? What about your taxes that go into Social Security that you may never see any penny? Why should I pay into that? I'm not going to see anything of it. What about your other taxes that go for paying for Medicaid? Well, I'm not poor. I'm not a poor kid. So that's the problem.
I understand.
Right?
I don't think that's a great philosophy.
Yeah. So
like, I think
that's the problem. Because if we start saying, well, you only pay for what those services you use, on the face, I think that'd be awesome. Right. But who's going to pay for the indigent?
That's what I was worried about, which is, hey, look, if we accept that as a reason for, like, I don't think that should be a reason for school choice, because once we go down that philosophy and apply that principle, we fall into a whole mess of nasty.
You pick your favorite thing, right?
Yeah,
but,
right.
Anything that the state spends money on. Why should I pay for incarcerating somebody at the prison?
Yeah, right. I didn't break the law.
I didn't break the law, right? But I mean, somebody's got to pay for it.
Yeah, right.
And everything we do is like that.
Yeah.
And so, and I get that, and I understand, the people who, they paid into the system for all their life, and they're 67 years old, and they're like, why am I still paying for these kids going to school? Well, why am I paying for somebody to be locked up in jail, or why am I paying for anybody to get food stamps, right?
Right.
Or the roads that I don't use anymore.
We have a societal agreement.
It's just what it is.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Listen, Representative Monks, I really appreciate you. I don't want to make you late. I know you got a thing. I know you got a jet.
I didn't even look at that.
I know. We get rolling. Thank you for coming again. Congratulations on your bill. Love chatting with you again. Maybe we can do one right at the end of the session.
Would love it. And I'm going to end with, can I add one thing? Okay. We've got at least $260 million in income tax relief this year. Done deal. We've got $100 million in property tax. We're almost done with that one. And we've got another $50 million on a food credit. You add those things up. Don't even have to count in the school choice thing if you don't want to count that as a tax cut. We also passed a bill, my bill, that if you sell something less than $5,000, you don't even have to get the seller's permit to pay the sales tax on that. Not a big dollar amount, but it is additional tax cuts. We're over $400 million in tax cuts this year. It's a good year. This is a big deal. Idaho did really well this year.
God bless you, sir. Thank you for helping Idaho.
Appreciate you.